So, hi everybody and welcome back. This is a C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 23 and in this video we make a exercise, and in this exercise we write a database, but not perfect. We use not the right not the right keywords and the right structure. We use that what we know and still write a database which works, but not as a real database, just as a database with our knowledge. That's okay too. So how we write a database? First of all, let's go to our code and let's make a plan. And we did already a plan, right? And we learned we can write a plan, a very fast plan, random plan, without thinking too much. And how we do is we write just comments and then we convert these comments in code. So let's plan our database. Very simple. It must be not perfect because we will develop it later too and extend it or change it and so on. Okay, we start with the first thing. I want to make a database. Database where I save names. Okay, that's it. We can make numbers too, but let's make it with names and later perhaps we extend it with numbers and so, but let's make just names. All right, that's done. The next thing, what I want that the database will do when I start my program. I want compare names, and if the name is not in my database, then I want include it to my database. Okay, so I want just compare to the name with my database name, and if the name which is new is not in my database, I will write it in my database. That's so the idea here behind that. Okay, let's go on. And how I make this, because I just said I want, and how I make this. Let's write this how I make this. I will get the name from the user via input. That means just I will ask the user to type his name, and then he will type in his name, and then I can do this one. Okay, that's okay. Let's see what happens next. Okay, I have now the name. I will then compare this name, but anyhow, this one, the order here is not right? Normally you will say I will get first the name and then I will compare. So let's correct this. Very easy. We can shift it up and this one down. Oops, not up, down. Let's make it this way. See what I did here. Make it this way. All right. And okay, this adds some. Okay. Okay, then we have this one because I will ask here first the name, right? I will get the name from the user via input, and then I want to compare the names. If the names is not in my database, when I want, then I want to include it to my database. That must be not perfect, just so a plan, a thumb rule plan. And then what I want to do, actually, that's it, right? That is our little program that looks not much, but actually that will be, yes, not too big, but also not too little, because it looks not very much, but I think that will be very much. So let's don't overdo it. Let's stop here and we have a plan. So Next is, after we have now our plan, how we convert this one to a code. So, okay, we start on top with my first line, and let's say I want to make a database where I save names. How I convert this to a code? We learned this. If we can, we convert. If we can't, we don't convert. We just skip it. In this case, it is just a plan what I want to do, not a real code thing, right? We can't convert this real. This is just our idea what to do. So the only thing what we can do here is just write it out, make a start screen where we say this is a database and please, something like that. Let's print just out std out, and then I print out, for example, I want to make a database where I save names. And then we write here, this is a database database who compares database which compares names and include them if include them if it is not already if it's not already included, something like that. Not very important, you make it perfect later. This one is also called prototyping. Prototyping means coding. It is coding, yes. Prototyping in programming means you just write something very fast, not perfect, and build the first code and try to run it as fast as possible, and later you will go over it again and make it perfect. What I mean with perfect, perhaps you will replace this crap writing here, perhaps you will replace the style, perhaps you will try to make profiling, which means try to find better code, and so on. But in the prototype stage in which we are, it is the planning stage. At the first time, we just try to convert this code as fast as possible with our knowledge to code, also this comments to codes, and we can make it better later if we say we are not happy with that. But let's continue. Okay, I'm happy with that, and I watch this later. And of course you can check this code. This is also very nice. Don't write it till the end and say, yes, this is a database which compares names. Okay, I see here already one mistake. Now I want here that it jumps to the next line, for example. That's why we check it all the time. That I said this too. You should check your code after you write code. So don't wait till the end. Don't try to write all the parts after you finished the code and then check. That's the wrong way. And the reason I tried to explain in one other video is, if you do this, it can happen that you make during the way till down not one error, perhaps more errors, and they can cause that you have a very hard time to find these errors, because one error can cause that the error of the other one is causing another error. It's called a chaining of errors, and this can really hard to figure out. But if you write a code, check this code now and say, okay, till now it works, very good, I continue, that's nice, and then write the next part of code included and check. Okay, this takes a little bit more time, but you are sure that this code, what you write, it works till this point, and it's easier at start till you get a routine. For basics, for example, later you will don't check it every line, but at start we are beginners, check every time. If you write a code, just check it works, so that you have not later many errors to find, which can be hard. So we continue, and now I say I will get the names from the user via input. One more thing what I forget. When we use stc out, what we need, of course, we need the library IOStream. It was already included here, but don't forget this check. This one requires this library. We have it on top. Good. Let's continue. I will get the name from the user via input. Okay. How we get names and how we get from the user the names. So we learned this already in our riddle a little bit. We can ask the user to put in their names, and to do so we have to create variables. We learned this already, but I have, for example, my code here down of the riddle, and what I'm going to do now is something called, in normal language they say you copy. This is cheating, right? Comment uncomment. Let's make Control C. This one would be called cheating. You are using other codes, something like that. But in programming, that is not called cheating. That is what you should do. If you have already written a code, for example, or if you have, or it is more called, if you already have acquired knowledge how to do something, or you have access and you know where it is, then use the code again. So for example, in general, in schools and whatever in other places, they say don't use the other things, other people's making and so on. But in programming, it's the opposite. If you already have here a code and you understand it, then use it, because this one is called reuse code. And there is all time the talk, don't invent the wheel if it's already here, which means don't write all from scratch again. If you have already the knowledge, if you already learned many parts, and now you can just use it. And in our case, I will use it. I will not write here the whole code again. I said I will get the name from the user via input. Okay, I learned I need this player names. Okay, I copy this one just, and I learned these are variables, and like here, and I have to write them on top. Very good. Let's write them. I write here variables. I use them, and now I have two. But probably I have to change it a little bit because this one is the code for this riddle, and this naming makes sense there, but make this sense here? This is another question, but I still use it now. And then I go on. Okay, all other things I don't need, but this one, this input, and so this was interesting, right? So I want the players to enter the names. Yes, here I want to enter to something, and here is already the code which we learned. Okay, I take it. But of course, if you want, try to write it from scratch because you are beginners. But this one you should learn too. That's why just use this also, because this is very important to learn this too. Because that's what I do right now here with this code, what we already written, you will do later in programming. If you don't know the code, you will go to the internet probably and search for already existing programs. For example, in GitHub, GitHub is a place where they represent their codes, their projects, and then you can see how they solve it and then take it over and change it, of course, because like I said, it is called in programming reuse the code. Don't start over and over again. Don't write all from scratch. This will cost later too much time. We don't want that. So let's continue. Okay, I will get the names from the user via input. Of course, you could write this also, but I used now the code from there because I know, and now I talk much, but I write nothing almost. I just copy and paste it here. Perfect. Okay, it's asked here for the player. Then this one is wrong, right? Because it says here player. So we have to adjust this code, and let's do this before we go on, because they are not players, because I said here I will get the name from the user via input, not from the player. So, and then let's change perhaps the variable name, and the next thing is, let's say username instead of name. Username, because this one I want compare. I will get the name from the user via input, and here I write here perhaps username. Okay, the problem is here probably this one. If I would write this one from scratch, it would be probably faster in this case because the code is a little bit little. But still, I wanted to introduce you this concept of reusing code instead of all time writing it from scratch. But as a beginner, write it from scratch. That's okay. Use the name. Then you write here change this one too, and you say here enter here, just we write here just enter your name and so on. We can change it later. I said this is just a prototyping, just fast, make it work, and later we change this also. Let's continue what we have next. Okay, I will get the name from the user via input. Yes, I have this one, and it will save here, but this one is not usable. Okay, then I kick this out. So nice. I continue with my work. Then I say I want compare names, and if the name is not in my database, then I want include it to my database. Okay, but we have here a problem, right? We have no database. Okay, we have to create a database, and the database we can't get from the code which we learned so far, right? Because we never made here something like that. So which means we don't need them. Let's comment this out again. Control K and C for commenting. These are deactivated. So there I could not get much. You see, this one was perhaps not even worth it to go there down and grab this, but later when we have a long list, you don't want to write it from start again, because this one was 2 lines. Perhaps we get later a code part which is 100 lines, and then start from 100 lines again from scratch. That costs time if you already know that you want to use this 100 lines, and you just change here perhaps some variable names. So let's continue. The bad part is we have not this database made till now. So how we can make a database? The problem is here with the database, we have not learned some new keywords which is needed to create a real database. So we are making a, let's say we fake, or we simulate, or we try to pretend that what we are going to create is a database. It's not a real database, but in our case it will work, and I will show you how. So first of all, what is a database? Right, I never talked about a database. A database is just simple a list with data, and in our case a list of names. That's it, no more, no less. In our case, a very simple one. So we make in the end effect just a list with names, and then we will compare this list of names if the user who enters his name is in this list. That's it. So let's write this one down too anyhow, but okay, now we understand what a database is, but how we are going to create this list. And that's, I said, there are some other keywords which we not learned, but we learned something different. We can simulate a list anyhow. And how we do this, we go here on top to the variables, and then I say, oh, string I need again. Perfect. Copy, all time copy. And no, let's copy this one. This is this one. I need this. Oops, this not. Paste. Okay, I need the string, and I just write here another data variable, variable name, not data variable, variable name, which is database name 1. And this one I copy now. Copy, and I paste it several times because now this one looks also like a list. I said we simulate. Later we learn something like an array or a list or a map or whatever. There are many things to create something like this very easy, but now we create it very manually. We are really typing all the separate names here. And now I have created something like a list, right? The first, the second, but here I have used all time the same name. That's wrong. Let's make it here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but we have here one more problem. We have not assigned here names because I said make only a variable which makes sense, and I will not use probably all. But if you use this variable names later, then you can create it here. But if you are not using them later, then don't create them here. In our case, we will use them probably. So, and then we can, but to compare here, the next thing is I want compare names, right? And if the name is not in my database, then I want include it to my database. So for example, here, this user is entering his name. Okay, enter your name. I enter my name. And then I will compare this name, which I saved here, the username, with all of this one. This is my goal, what I want to do in our case. And this one we have to code anyhow, right? And this comparison right now makes no sense because they have nothing included. So first I assign them. Let's say I have already included some names to compare, and I write here Superman is in my database. I assign coder is in my database. I assign Maggie is in my database, and I assign let's assign Wonder Woman is in my database, and these two ones I keep open. Let's say I keep open them and save so far. So what I did here is this one are already used databases names, and this one are two open database names, right? Because now I can use this one here to assign new names in it. And this one I want too, because when I read this comment again, I want compare names. Yes, I get this name from the user. I will compare it with this. And then I want the names in, wait, let's see, I want compare names, and if the names is not in my database, which means it's not one of this one already, then I want include it to my database, which means here I have made some variables, database variables without names. Then I want include this one here. All right, so let's do this. But how we code this, how we can compare this and then include this. Actually, we learned all of them. We learned here this comparison. We have a comparison operator, right? We have something like that. We learned something like, for example, I I can compare two variables. For example, username. I can compare easy with a comparison operator. Let's write it from start, right? So I can continue and waste not too much time. And okay, but how I make this? First, we have a comparison operator. Important is this comparison operator we can use in different ways, but we learned in our if statement, the condition one is a very good candidate to use this comparison operator, and the if statement is also very good to decide if the name is in our database or not in our database. So we are going to use a if statement here. Let's write this if, and then I write this comparison. Let's write our first condition. Let's say username, this one which I will get, all right, is then I have to compare all with all the other ones. That means a lot of work, but let's start. We have to write it really manually to learn it a little bit. Typing later, there will come again a keyword which makes the life easier. But right now I have to compare it now with all the words which I have here in my database. So we may compare is equal and then database 1, okay. And then if this is equal, I will do nothing, just nothing, because then it is my database. And I want only include this one in my database if it's not here in it, right? That's my goal, because if I found something with a name which is already here in, then I want to not include it here. Okay, let's continue. Okay, here I make nothing. Let's see, let's make this one. So there are different ways to do, and let's continue. And now I use again a comparison, else if. We can compare again. Let's copy this one, because now I will go through all and compare all the databases here, all the names here actually, and write here the second name. Okay, and then that is a real hell of a work, but later like I said, there is a very easy, oops, not this one. Let's copy the whole thing here, make it a little bit more less typing, and then the free, actually we can copy, oh man, actually we can copy this one, copy, paste this one and write the free. Okay, I checked it with free, and I check one more time. Let's go for here. Oh, and with 4. So now I checked it with the 1, with the second, with the third, and with the 4. That was a whole of a work already. And now I don't find it after this one. I have checked all the conditions, right? I checked all the names, but it was not there. And then oops, sorry. And then what we do is, the next thing I said here, then if the name is not in my database, after this checks, I know it is not in my database, then I want to include it to my database. Okay, and how I include it now to my database, then we can write here at the last part, else, because all the other conditions was false, which means it is not in my database, then I can include it. Else, I write an else statement. And now the question is how we write the code to include it. In this case, I have to use, for example, this I check. So I have to check actually again if this database name is empty. But then I have to introduce again something new, which I'm not going to do in this video because it's already too long. That's why we assume we know that this one is empty, and then I write here just database name. So I write here the database name 5 in this case, and then I just assign it. We learned this also. Yes, we have this variable, and now we can assign here the username in it, right? We just username, and this one, when we assign this one, because this one we checked, this is a variable with a name, and now assign this one to database name 5, and it will be in this one. So that looks good, but where does this work? Let's check this. I said all time check your code. Let's see what happens. Okay, it starts anyhow, and then enter your name. Okay, Superman, and it prints nothing out. Okay, we have to print, of course, something out, and we have to print out if it's found a name in our database or if it's not found a name in our database. And the place where we print this out is actually in the if statement, because when let's say here it has nothing found, then we make a message for the a message to the print output, and it says, for example, s.a cout, and we write here new member included to the database. All right, we included a new member to our database. Perfect. And let's do this all time with a new line, because this is all time nice for formatting later. And let's try this one now, and I will use not a name of this one here, because now we can check this code, right? I said check all time your code later. It's very hard. Let's write here something so. And here, new member included to the database, but still missing a message here. What member? Who is this member? And so let's write this also out. And that's one we have to write it after this one, or we can shift this one down. Database username, because here we know normally you write this one first and then you check this one and then you go on, but we know when we are in this block it is definitely a new number, so I can use this one, but let's keep this one up, not very important. And then I write here after I check this one, copy. No, let's do it on top, doesn't matter, really doesn't matter if it's top or bot. And then I write here new member included, but I want see the new member, right? And how we learn to print out the new member, then you can write something like the new member is, and then we go here something like so, the new member is, and then just the username. Very simple. And let's see if this works. All time check your code. Yeah, okay. And let's write it. Tarzan is our new member. And we see new member included to the database. The member is Tarzan. Cool. So far it works, but we have still a problem here. What is if we find the member in our database, right? We have created this one, but let's say the member is in our database. What happens here? Let's write this one too. Let's check with coder. There is no output, and what happens here is it goes here it checks the name here, the second one, and it says here true, because now this one we learned will be, the condition will be true, and then it will print out what, or it will execute only this block here, but there is nothing, and all other will be skipped, which means we have to write a message when the user enters his name and it finds in the database. It must be said found already exist in database, something, a message like that, very easy. std out, out, user is already in database, or name is all, or let's not user, let's say name is already in database, something like that. And then we can of course write again a n, and this one we need for all now. Here we just copy this message if it finds, copy and write, paste and paste and paste here too. That looks not bad, right? Let's see, let's compile and save that, start this, and let's check this, what we have. Enter your name. Okay, let's write this time again, coder. Name is already in database, so yes, this works. Let's test it with a new name. Let's write here Kate. What's happening with Kate? New member included to the database. The member, I wrote it wrong, is Kate. So I said at start, this is just a prototyping, right? Prototyping means you write a plan which is also not perhaps perfect, and then you try, and we wrote it in comments, and then you try to convert this fast in code, which is also perhaps not perfect like our ones. And then after all you did this and works, so the base structure, it works, right? But now we have some mistakes like member. This is one mistake. And style, perhaps the style is also not good, right? So when I start this one again, let's watch the style here a little bit. You see, this one is not here. Perhaps you want to make some space. Perhaps you want space here. Perhaps you want place it here in the middle. I have never that. So this one looks very at the corner, and you can make here some space, and then put this all here a little bit centralized in the middle and so on. Because right now, let's do this how I would make this. For example, just spacing here with our, let's copy Control N, because this one we will need also here a little bit, and many space things. So for example, we can, or let's make this one. This is not the, oops, Control Z here. This is not the right way, but we can use it. Why not? Let's see, is this here the problem? Yeah. That's not the place what I wanted. Where is this? This one. First of all, we start with this one. Okay, let's start with this. Copy again. Let's go here, paste, and let me delete this one. And let me copy this one again. And you see, this is just styling around. And so now I included just spaces, for example. This is not the best way, of course, but it's a fast way. A fast way is good. So I made some spaces, then I make here some spaces as well. And let's make here not too much space times. So, and then you can also style this a much better. This is one way to change it here. Enter your name here. You can make the same thing here. Let's make the same space here. And yeah, I think you get the idea. And then you make here some space, or you can make this here in the middle to look it more out and so on. But important is perhaps, let's do one more thing here. Let's go here and paste this also here. And perhaps, oops, this one would be work, but let's do this way. And what I did was, yeah, you see, you can make here much more beautiful and then enter your name. Okay, coder. And then this output is also not perfect. And this is only one way. This is just styling a little bit. And when we continue with coding, I said, of course, you can check later your code as well if this is the best solution. For example, when you code, you will not find the best solution most time at the start. As experienced programmers, they will find it because they already coded so many and checked all the variations. They researched all the variations and they made profiling. A profiling is something like, yes, you check your code for the best performance or for security. This is different. We will talk all about this later. But what I want to say is, when we are doing something like that, what we did here with prototyping, this code will be never perfect and will be reworked later to make it like I did here a little bit with styling, a little bit better than the code. Perhaps this is not the best code. Perhaps there is another way. In our case, it's the best way because we are beginners. We only learned here some if statements, but perhaps this one is even not the best solution. There are different solutions. Perhaps you can find here with your knowledge without using any other keywords. Again, another solution for this, what I did here. Probably there is something like, yeah, I know there are, if I think a little bit more, there will be a way and so on. But you see, we created, let's say, let's debug this one more last time, a little database. We compared this. And the question is now forward, what is this? Why is this useful? I mean, when we write a program, it should be useful. Actually, you should ask this question before you start writing this program. But in our case, I made this only as a demonstration that we write again a program. And here we used again this comparison operator, but actually we never used the bool operator. But this one is actually, like I said, behind the scene, this one converts to a bool statement, which is true or false. The condition says here yes or no. If it's yes, it goes in. If it's no, it goes not in. But I talk now much. I stop here. And in the next video, we will continue a little bit. And the last thing what I want to say is, yeah, we will train a little bit more. This if statement we will use from now on all time, I think, and then include more things. And don't forget, if you learned some codes, don't throw them away, save them and reuse them later. Right now, it was not very useful to reuse them. I wanted only show you that we can reuse them. But when you have, like I said later, 100-line code or 1,000-line code, which you have already learned, optimized, made it perfect, and you say in this new project or in this new coding section, you need this, then just take it what you have already. Don't write it from scratch. 1,000 line of code cost at least, let's say you write one line in, let's say, 1 line in 1 second, then you have 1,000 seconds wasted because you not reuse the code what you already have, right? Or and so on. But for this cases, we will make more examples later. So bye for now and see us in the next with more keywords. Bye.